Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of VGC Reflections. I, of course, am Aaron Cybertron Zhang, and I'm joined by my good friend Markus Haman. And we are here to cover a lot of stuff in the competitive Pokemon VGC space. Of course, the 2025 World Championships, the regulations, both H and J, and of course, Pokemon Champions. We've got a lot to talk about, and of course, we've missed you very dearly as it's been a while. So, Markus, how are you doing, man?
It's been a while. Yeah, Worlds is over, and yeah, we're back doing some analysis. We gotta talk about what went down there. Of course, both of us in different roles this year. We both played last year, but now, of course, I participated. You were part of the whole thing as a commentator, so I'm really excited also to hear your perspective about that. And yeah, overall, I'm doing well. I got back from Worlds with a little bit of a cold, but I'm over that now. And yeah, I'm just enjoying life. Was telling you just before playing some video games that are not Pokemon for once. But yeah, overall, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Likewise, yeah, I think Worlds definitely was exciting, but definitely tiring as well. And so went on a little vacation afterwards. It was probably one of the longer vacations I've taken. And, I started a new job in January, and this was like the most time I had taken off of work since starting, but was, yeah, on vacation for about like 10 days or so. So was in Greece for a friend's wedding, then checked out one of the other islands in Greece after staying on Athens, and then was in Paris as well. So it was really relaxing, but I think it's also probably like the longest amount of time I had gone without uploading a YouTube video. And like maybe ever since starting YouTube, it was like just over two
Wow.
weeks. And I was like, wow, like I feel like making content has been such a big part of my routine, like sitting down and trying a team and playing. And I was like, oh, I'm like itching to play, like more just to make videos. And of course, like now we have like two different regulations as well. So vacation was awesome. It was really relaxing. I was really, I think I needed it, especially after Worlds. I think it was just, kind of a long weekend, but also feels good to be back. And of course, recording this with you. And I think, Pokemon's just in such an interesting space right now because we're in this like lull period where we've got a couple months and Champions is just ahead. And we still don't know the official release date for it, but it feels like it's going to come, sooner than later. And I think that's really, really crazy for me to think about. But of course, we got to talk about Worlds.
Yeah, it's absolutely a very exciting time for the game. And then, of course, with the pinnacle of the season just, yeah, right behind us, so to say. Well, congrats, Giovanni. You got to say it. We got a new world champion, and yeah, oh boy, like that was incredible. Like an incredible weekend. Like especially the finals, of course. Like the gameplay was high, and the scene was high for that as well. And so yeah, like why don't we just start with that right away? Since of course you got to commentate that awesome finals in that arena. So yeah, for those of you who did not have the chance to, yeah, witness it in person, I was lucky enough to just barely make it in. But I think also on the live stream, like it was clear that this is like it was something special, right? Like how did it feel to you?
It was crazy. I mean, I've never experienced anything like it, and it's like beyond my wildest dreams, honestly. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I'd be like, wow, I wonder how cool would it be if, like, Pokemon Worlds was like in the stadium and like you had these graphics that showed up and, there were people cheering and like live commentary. And I was like, I don't think that'll ever happen. Like, I genuinely was like, that'd be crazy. And like, it happened, it
Yeah.
actually happened. And I mean, being able to commentate it, I think was nuts. It was, I feel like it all happened so quickly that I like blacked out for a second because I had like done all this prep for the
Yeah.
matchup.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I had like played against friends and like had this whole like pages of like notes that I wanted to talk about. But then like you get on stage and all of a sudden like the game is just starting and I was like, oh my God, like all of that has gone out. It's like time to talk about the game. And yeah, but it was nuts. I mean, it's like crazy to think that the game has gotten to this point. And like you said, I mean, it was in a live arena. I think there were over 5,000 people in attendance in person. I mean, Pokemon did a spectacular job with like the
Yeah.
stage was beautiful. Like you could see like graphics like on the LED screens as the players played. There was literally like fire coming out and smoke and confetti. And it was, I mean, it was just crazy. Like I didn't know what it would be like. I knew we were going to be in an arena, but I didn't know what the production would look like. And I feel honored to be a part of it. I think the finals in particular was a really fascinating finals. Like definitely the skill level felt really high. I think both Gio and James are incredible players, of course, in the Masters division. And I think Gio, like, I can't think of someone who's like more deserving of the championship in the sense that, I think a lot of people who follow VGC like might not know him because he's not like very publicly known, but he's been on stream a couple of times. Every time I've talked to him, every time I've seen him in his interviews, every time I've seen him like engage online, he's like so thoughtful, so smart, and has also been like a true student of the game. Like I think he's someone who's like studied old VGC formats and like has been around for a while. I think he probably started playing in like 2017, 2018. But I think, yeah, I don't know. He just has an amazing attitude about the game. And to me, I'm like, what a dream come true, right? For him, your first tournament that you win and it's the world championships. Like that, it doesn't get any crazier than that. And, I think he stuck to his gut with his meta call and really mastered it. And the finals, of course, was so exhilarating as well. So I don't know. It was just such a crazy experience. But I'm curious what it was like for you, obviously, one spectating Championship Sunday, and then, of course, talking about your experience as a player as well.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, this is not like research, but he might be the first world champion since Arash with that feat, like having it like being the first tournament you win. So it has been done before, all the way back in 2013. But yeah, I think everyone else since then has had at least like one like big major win. But yeah, my mom was actually like, I was talking to her about it as well. Like she's been around in the scene like as a mom. Shout outs to my mom. For like a while, and like she's like loosely following things, and but she, of course, she didn't know who Gio was, and so she was like, oh yeah, like this guy, like did he kind of come out of nowhere, and like so like he must be like, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know, like not as, I don't know, established in the scene as like some other players. So maybe like people weren't expecting for him to win, or like how are we feeling about it? And I was like, no, like he was actually like in the, I don't know, top 5 list that we had like internally in terms of like favorites for the events. Like of course for Worlds it's always so difficult to like put a finger on and be like, okay, like this person's gonna win, just because there's so many amazing players in the event. Like every round you had so many great matchups that probably could have gone either way, and then in the end there can only be like one person winning it all, of course. But yeah, as you were saying, Aaron, definitely a role model, someone to look up to, both with how like in their play within the game, but also outside the game. And so yeah, very deserving champion, will continue to hold the torch. And it's amazing to see what you can reach with dedication, which with being level-headed, and also with sticking to your team throughout ups and downs. I think that's also like a big part of his success story, trusting the Lunala Coridon throughout the entire season. And even when a lot of people were doubting the team, like he just, I don't know if he like tried anything else at all, but he was like, nah, okay, like I'm gonna make like some small changes here and there, but I'll just like know my team better than anyone else. And it definitely showed throughout the tournament. So yeah, you asked about my experience as a viewer. So like watching finals, yeah, as you were saying, like it's crazy to see how high the production value got. I think like we've seen it with the last couple of worlds, like gradually increasing, but I feel like this one definitely was like another like major jump. And you also have to consider the fact that, of course, with an event like this, like planning, like it takes like a while. So they were working on some of these things for a couple of years. In fact, I saw a post on LinkedIn by someone from TPCI who was talking about next Worlds next year. I don't know if you've also saw that, but they were talking about how they were hired 2.5 years ago for Pokemon XP, which is happening in 2026. So they were hired like at the beginning of 2023 for an event that happens like 3.5 years later, right? So the prep cycle and everything is just like so long, so that I think now we're like starting to witness like some of the growth that happened a couple years ago, but only now it's coming into like full effect.
Yeah.
In terms of like the venues we're seeing, like next year's Worlds is going to be at the Chase Center, right? Like that's going to be another like big step up. And so yeah, with Pokemon XP and everything that's happening, like it was already incredible to see what Worlds had to offer this year. But I think, yeah, like next year it's just gonna like keep growing in like big jumps for at least the next year, and then like let's see if they will like just maintain that level or if it'll be like even bigger after that. But yeah, the arena already incredible, but I feel like, yeah, it's gonna be like even crazier next year.
Chase Center, like in particular, I mean, I was in San Francisco for a few years, going to school down in Palo Alto, like about 45 minutes south of San Francisco. But Chase Center, it's Chase Center. It's like where the Golden State Warriors play, like that. That's one of the biggest sports teams in the world. One of the winningest sports teams in the NBA as well over the past decade. And to me, I was just like the arena experience already felt really crazy, and I was like, but this is like 5,000 people. I think Chase Center's capacity is like 16, 17. Like I was like
Yeah,
triple the
18,
size of
yeah.
that. It's like
Yeah.
just so many more layers. And for me, I'm like, wow, it's crazy. It's getting to the point where like I want to invite my friends who know nothing about Pokemon just to
Yes.
come and spectate it, because I want them to see like how amazing this scene is. And I mean, Marcus, you and I have been there since basically the very beginning. And I'm like, Worlds back in the day, it was like in a little ballroom, and there was like 30, 40 people who maybe would qualify to compete. And now it's like at the scale that it's at. And
And and there was also like no security or nothing, because like nobody like cared about it. Like you could have walked like straight into Worlds and just like, yeah, like be standing next to like Wolf and Ray or whatever
yeah, yeah.
back in the day. And like, yeah, now, yeah, things are a little bit different. And yeah, it'll just like keep going like that, I guess, from here on out.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to dig in a little bit more into your experience, of course, competing in the event. I remember, when we were recording these a couple of months ago, we had this big conversation where you were like, "Oh, I'm not even sure if I'll qualify," but then you just had a couple of really great performances, and suddenly within a few weeks, I'd managed to qualify for Worlds. And so, what was the prep process like, and ultimately, yeah, how was the tournament relative to your expectations?
Yeah, so I mean, we're getting to the point where also like qualifying for Worlds is just like getting like more and more difficult,
Yeah.
because there are so many great players, and also the spots being limited now this year with the top 75. Like as you were saying, like I wasn't sure if I was going to qualify, since I'm also like pivoting towards putting more focus on commentary. So I commentated 4 events last season, which only like left me a couple of events. And then also I didn't participate in any IC outside of EU. And so just like qualifying itself was like already great, right? But then I was like, okay, like I want to really like use that, right? I'm not just satisfied just getting there, but I also want to do well, of course. And that at this stage, with the level being so high, with a lot of players being very very dedicated, I think you absolutely have to put in a lot of time in order to even have a chance of doing well. It's not a given, even if you put in all the time, and I think that's what I had to experience once more. Um, but yeah, I was looking for quite a while for like a core that I liked, and I found something, but like none of my like usual prep partners were interested in exploring it with me. And it was the core of Calyrex Shadow Rider with Terra Fairy and Draining Kiss, Nasty Plot, Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Clefairy. Like those four, um, I've used them at a couple events already in Regulation G. For example, I brought them to EOIC, and also there thought it was like just like it's like a team that I feel like very at home with. Like I can pretty quickly understand if it's a position that requires for me to like play positionally and defensively and like protect, switch, fake out, set up, protect parting shot, or if it's like a situation where I need to like take a risk and just like, I don't know, attack with the Calyrex Shadow Rider, even if it was vulnerable. And yeah, I thought it would be like a great team to have against Miraidon and Calyrex Ice, which was very popular at the time. And so I locked in those four and then started to like explore options. Like I was trying like Iron Jugulis and Imprison, Zamazenta. I got some like good results in Victory Road Tours as well, and like I thought things were going well, but like none of my like close friend group was really interested. So I reached out to a bunch of other players. Like I had like some like new players I met from Australia that I was like talking to, and yeah, it was like I was like having fun, but like at some point I realized like, well, the metagame had already like developed a little bit beyond the Miraidon Calyrex Ice team that I was like kind of targeting. And so I got like a little bit worried with my version of the team. And eventually, I ended up working together with Oliver Eskelin from Finland, Davide Miraglia from Italy, and James Katsuras from Australia. So like a very like I don't know unique kind of mix of countries, but like that was quite fun. Of course, a little tough to work around the time zones there with Australia. Um, but yeah, like they believed in the same core, and then eventually we settled on Scarf Miraidon and Electric Seed Volcarona as the 5th and 6th slot. And I think the team had some flaws, but we kind of fixed them in some ways just by having like very dedicated game plans in some matchups. But then yeah, on tournament day, like between the four of us, I think like all of us faced like some like really tough matchup. Um, like Groudon and Grimmsnarl is something that we knew was going to be difficult, but then yeah, like James played against that. We played against a couple of Smirgle and Groudon, which is a team that
Oh.
started to pop up a little bit more just before Worlds, and we knew that it wasn't the best matchup, but yeah, we just decided to like stick to the team. And then like in my run particularly, I just like faced two very strong players in the first two rounds. I lost round one against Matty Morgan, and yeah, he was using the team that we kind of expected him and a couple more players to use, which was the Whimsicott, Calyrex Shadow, and Zamazenta team. But he had slotted in Urshifu Rapid Strikes with Choice Band over Ogerpon that we had texted against. And like, yeah, it's game one of Worlds. I'm playing against Maddie, like a very, very strong opponent, and I'm in a good spot. And I'm like, maybe like I don't know if it was like a winning spot, but after like 3 turns, I feel like really good about my position. And then like I was like, oh yeah, like he's gonna do that. Like his Calyrex is like at -1, like he's gonna switch it out, he's gonna like do that. Like, okay, like I'm fine. And I like lock in my move, and then I'm like, oh, like what if he like protects and blocks my parting shot like that? But I'm like, okay, like that's fine. But then he like makes kind of like a not like a hard read, but he makes a play that completely like counters my play, and
Mm-hmm.
he switches in Zamazenta, protects the Calyrex, and like my parting shot goes into the Calyrex, and now all of a sudden I can't switch out, and all of a sudden I'm like against Zamazenta and Calyrex under Tailwind, and it was like one of those turns where I'm like, oh, I just could have used parting shot onto his Whimsicott, and no matter what he did, I would have been fine, and then I probably could have won that game. And so I feel like, well, I lost like game one. I still had chances after that, but like lost a couple of calls between like Astro Barrage versus White Guard, and then like made another like not so great play. And so like I lost game one at Worlds after like putting in all the work like the
Mm-hmm.
entire season, and then you're sitting there, and then you lose it to your own mistake, right? And that did not feel good, and I'm still thinking about that like turn. What was it, 3 or 4? Like since then, and even with that, like I still think I like had a decent chance to win if I like recovered from that in the moment, and if I identified that I could have just like sacked my instant, but I was like, oh, like I'm gonna make like a hard read next turn to come back, and like I'm gonna like make a play, and I got the play right that he was going for, but I think my punish was not like correct in
Mm.
hindsight. So yeah, I've thought about that game like for quite a bit, because I ended up losing the set because game two he just like played better, and um I didn't play well against the Urshifu. But yeah, so I lost game one to like my own mistake, and I think that kind of like it didn't break me for the tournament, but it broke me in a way like afterwards, because I was like, yeah, like it's like my own mistake, right? I wasn't good enough. Like I could have just played better, and because I had the plan, I knew what I wanted to do, but then I was in a good spot, but then I just like let it slip like that. And yeah, that's not something that you can afford to do against like a good player at Worlds, right? So yeah, that was that kind of hurt me a bit, but then I think I like did okay in the rest of the tour. But then round 2, I played against Diego. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Aguirre. But Aguirre. Anyway, I've played against him last year at Worlds as well, funnily enough, and managed to win against him in round 1. And then he went on to go and to finish in top 16. So he's like definitely pretty good. And yeah, once again, it's like I win game 1 and then it's game 2 and I'm in like a good spot, but I just couldn't figure it out. But and then like just I don't know 5 minutes after the turn happened, I think we were like in game 3 or something. I'm like, oh wait, like I could have just attacked the other way around, or maybe I realized it instantly. I don't remember. But like yeah, it's like a weird situation where I should have used Draco Meteor with my Scarf Miraidon onto his Zamazenta, which like looked weird, but that was like the right play to make. And yeah, like I lost game 2 and then game 3. Like I gave him one chance to crit me with Origin Pulse, and then he gets the crit. And I'm pretty sure I would have like won without that. Yeah, so then I was like 0-2 already after 2 rounds, and then I fought back, and I had to win like all 6 from here, and like I only managed to win 5, so went 5-3 in the end. But like yeah, like for my third loss against another good player like Kieran, who also made day 2 after this, despite like starting 2-2. It was like my best matchup, but he knew how bad the matchup was for him, and he knew like that he had to take like massive risks like early on in the game. And that's like in testing, it didn't occur to me that someone could like kind of like risk the game on the first turn on like a 50-50. But because he was so familiar with the matchup, he knew that he had to like take a big risk, or else he would like just lose if he tried to like play like the slow and grindy game. So like I can explain like why I lost all 3 of my losses, and as you can probably tell, like I spent some good time thinking about them as well. But yeah, like it still like sucks to lose, and at Worlds especially, because you don't get that chance that often. And then also like just overall, I think the team that we were using like was a little bit flawed in some areas, but there wasn't like a great way to like I think it was the best team that we could have found using the 4 that we wanted to use with the Terra Fairy Calyrex. But it wasn't like as a concept, it just wasn't strong enough to have like a really deep run. So I think yeah, it's like partly team issue and then partly playing issue, and then a little bit of bad luck. But that yeah, just like always can always happen. And then there were some other games where I didn't get unlucky, or maybe I got a little bit lucky. So I think luck evened out overall. But yeah, and then that's just yeah, not good enough. I think the prep was good. Like I think some of the lines that we had prepared, some of the game plans, like that was like a lot of fun. Just like playing the same couple of matchups all over again. But in the end, in like my like prep database, we had like 40 different teams that we had plans against, which yeah is like maybe it was this format, but it feels like pretty high, like to have like 40
Yeah.
teams that you need to like seriously prepare for. Like I would say that's on the high end. And then I still played against a couple of teams where I had never like seen them before. And but yeah, that was Worlds for me. Was I disappointed? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but still like overall, I'm happy that I managed to like win out after my third loss. So 5-3, 103rd in the world. Same score as the Japanese national champion, the 3rd best score in Germany. I don't know, like people at work just ask me like, "Oh, how did you do?" And like, it doesn't sound that impressive, right? Saying, "Oh yeah, I finished 103rd in the world." So
Yeah.
I started to think of like some like alternatives to like put things into perspective. And then if you look at like some other players like Zine, for example, like starting with I think like 1-3. Like he was like doing so well in VR tours before and also afterwards. Like he just recently won a VR tour in Regulation H. So he was like clearly like he's playing well, right? But he's still like yeah, finished like 1-3, and that can just always happen, I feel like. So yeah, like it wasn't my day this time, wasn't my time this time.
Well, I will say, to me, it was awesome seeing you back out there, and I was happy to see you like play it out as well. And I think hearing you describe all of that reminds me a lot of, honestly, like how I felt playing at Worlds last year.
Yeah.
Like I actually, even to this day, can like still flash back to specific turns in all of my 3 losses.
Yeah.
And last year, I thought out of the 3 losses, it was like everything you described felt so similar to Worlds last year. Where I was like, your Groudon experience like was my Dondozo experience. I was like, okay, I know people are gonna bring Dozo to Worlds. I don't think it's that many, but I played one of them in round 5, right? And that was like my first loss. And
Yep.
yeah, I think it was. There were like maybe 1 or 2 turns in all of my games that I was like, oh, that was probably objectively just a mistake, but I like, yeah, the time pressure and then also it being world specifically just adds another layer to it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just such a difficult tournament. And I think this year in particular, I don't know, just see, I mean, it was like, Marco and Fede Campo, right? Like
Right.
2 of the
Right.
favorites for
Yeah.
the entire tournament who had been doing so well this whole season were out by like round 5 or round 6 as well. And so it goes to show how difficult it is, but it makes Gio's win honestly even all the more impressive to me. And what's fascinating to me is like to your point, he stuck with this team from day one. To me, like that means that the team was probably just so structurally sound, because it was like, despite all these metagame shifts, like it was still good enough to win. And I think if you look at how the team was composed, it makes a lot of sense, because there's like so much good offense. There's so many different ways you can play with it as well. Like basically when I was prepping for the finals, I was like, okay, let me put myself in both players' shoes to think about like what the leads they should go with are, what are like the modes that they should go with. And it was actually interesting because what I came up with was very different from what we ended up seeing. And so this is another like interesting topic, but it's like the night of preparation can go such a long way, and it results in such different games than I think if you had just played it out immediately. But I was like, okay, from James's end, it's like a little bit more clear cut. From Gio's end, like if I'm James, I don't even know how to prepare for it, because I think Gio literally could take so many different routes. Like he never brought Ursaluna or Lunala to the matchup, but I think you actually have a like very possible 4 where you actually angle on Trick Room specifically and bring Ursaluna under Trick Room, for example. And so it's like I thought the team was just so well constructed, and there's so much immediate offense, right? Like the fact you could just use Flutter Main Chi-Yu as a lead all 3 games in the finals and just be like, okay, like let me just attack. The fact that you have this Trick Room angle, the fact that you have Ursaluna as well, the fact that you have Koraidon Flutter, like there were so many leads. And yeah, I don't know. I was really impressed by Gio's play like the entire tournament as well. And I felt like the team had really good options throughout. And I think it was like the semifinals where I was like, oh, I feel like Gio's in a pretty bad spot. Like Hirofumi's in a great spot. And then I blinked and I was like, wait, Gio won the game. Like, and then I blinked again and then Gio won the set. And I was like, wait, what? Like, and like his play was really sharp. Like it never felt like he made a mistake on really any of the turns that I watched. And it was interesting, I think, because at the finals, I thought it was going to be a 2-0. Like I was ready. I was like, game 2, it's done. Like I was even calling it. And then James won. I was like,
they were so I was pointing this out to like the friends that I was watching this with, but like after the finals, they were doing these like 360 kind of shots of the winners, right? And they had like a mobile like camera crew like on the stage for that, right? It was one guy with a camera and then one guy behind who was like holding the cables. And like during the end game of game 2, and I like we spotted the encore like win con at some point, and we were like, oh, like this is gonna go to like a game 3. But they were like setting up the for the shoot, right? Like they were like, okay, like the guy was like preparing the cable and the other guy was like preparing the cam, and then they were like ready to like hop on stage. And they were already like on stage, like hiding in a corner, like ready to like shoot like Gio win game 2 and like him become like the champion, right? But then like James actually like ends up like pulling back and wins in a nail biter, wins that second game. And then they were like called off and they were like confused. And then they like had to go off stage again. And they had to like the guy had to like pack his backpack, whatever that he was like using like for the cam. And they were like dismantling everything. And then, yeah, it took like a couple like minutes until everything was like back again. And then like game 3 like starts like really, really well for Gio, and then we were like, oh, like this is gonna be a quick one, and then they start setting everything up again. So that was pretty funny to watch. So yeah, you were definitely not the only one. And I mean, at some point, yeah, we were also thinking, oh yeah, like this is probably over. But then yeah, kudos to James for finding that way back.
Yeah, it was, I think, actually one of the most subtle comebacks I've ever seen in VGC, where James never made a flashy play, but he made the exact right defensive play for like 3 or 4 turns in a row.
Yeah.
It was also interesting because I think if Koraidon literally just has like 5 more HP, I think
Yeah,
Geo
like
wins.
one
But
more
the,
attack.
the key
Yeah.
thing is that it actually fainted from Life Orb. And so, like, I didn't notice the Encore until literally, like, as it was about to happen. Because in my head, I was like, well, he has so much offense. Like, how do you deal with it? But it was such a unique way to, like, pin the end game, which I thought was fascinating. But it was nuts because I was like putting myself in Geo shoes and I was like, oh, I know if I just like
Yeah.
make the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
read,
yeah.
like that's it. I'm world champion, but he didn't
Yep.
want to make that read. And so he was constantly going for like the safe play. But then it was like 4 turns of James getting it right. And it was like, it was nuts. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, I honestly thought James was so disadvantaged in that finals. I think Raging Bolt was the adjustment I was talking about in commentary. Like Flutter Chiyu just ended up being such a good lead where I was like, I guess even if you go with Bolt, like you pressure with Thunderclap, but then you're like pressuring, eating up like a Moonblast and like a Heat Wave or a Stellar Moonblast. And I think like Stellar Flutter, it was actually phenomenal, right? Like essentially just the game 3, like I felt like the finals, it just ended in 1 turn. Like
Yeah.
it felt impossible to come back after. But I thought James, yeah, put up a really, really amazing fight. And to me, I think it was going to be always a pretty big uphill battle for him because like your Koraidon's slower than the opposing Koraidon, and the opposing Koraidon does more damage as well. Flutter and Shiyu do so much damage as well. You don't have Protect on Raging Bolt, Insyn on Brute Bonnet. And so, yeah, I don't know. It just felt really hard. But it was, I think, such an amazing finals and like a great way to cap, I think, the format and the championship, of course.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, definitely like also a matchup that could be analyzed a lot more. And I know like you put in the time like beforehand, of course, wanting to provide like insight and analysis. But yeah, I think most people like will agree with the assessment that Geo was probably like had the matchup advantage, but then James made it really difficult. And also, yeah, like if you're on that big stage, like you can't really fault Geo for wanting to like play safe. But then he took some risks and made some flashy plays in game 3, I guess, with the Terra Stella, with a switch turn 1 that I guess not a lot of people were seeing. And then deservingly won the title. And going back to Geo's team, I think of course Wolf was also really trusting this Lunala Koraidon combination, and I think in a couple of months, if he decides to make a video about it, he'll probably also talk about that. But yeah, one thing like we like started to understand as like Wolf was playing that team more and more is that like one of the problems you also identified right now, like one of the problems with the team initially was that there is like so many good Pokemon in a lot of matchups. Like there aren't like really any hard counters for like an Ursaluna and Lunala Trick Room. Like you can kind of bring that against like almost anything, or at least like in preview, it looks like you can like pull that off reasonably like often. And then it's really about identifying, okay, like what are the 4 Pokemon that are the best in like which matchup, even though you can win with all of them. Like you will very rarely like have a game where you bring like say the Trick Room mode with like Instant Lunala or Saluna, and you will just like be, I don't know, like just like lose like really, really heavily. But that also like makes it tough. So, and I think that's why it's a team that you had to put in a lot of time to really understand to like all the details, like when you can afford to like drop which restricted, when you can go for which mode. But then if you did put in that time and effort, like as we also saw with Wolf with a decent finish. It's just like a team that is like very, very hard to stop. It honestly might be like up there for like best teams of the format, even though a lot of people, of course, doubted it quite a bit, especially after around NAIC where it just didn't perform really well for a while. But yeah. So Geo definitely put in that time, and it definitely showed in the games on stream that we got to see of him.
Yeah, I think it was honestly fascinating because, like you said, like so few other people believed in it. Like, and Gio was like, "I'm just gonna stick with this from day one," and he had top cut like every tournament he had played in,
Yep.
basically as
Yep.
well, right? So clearly it was proven. But I wonder how different the you know way the season played out would have been if he like ended up winning regionals or like won NAIC, because then the team is
Yeah.
so up in everyone's radar. But when you lose in like top 8 or top 16, and people are like, "Oh, okay, someone made it there," but it's just one guy, right? Like I don't think we need to prep for this team as much.
Yeah, and I think it's a team where, as I was saying, like it's just very difficult to like pilot it at the very, very highest level. Like maybe you could get like to like, I don't know, like 90% of its potential after like a couple like of weeks. But I think to reach the true potential, like even after Wolf used it at NAIC, I think he was still saying how like, oh yeah, like after NAIC, he still started to see like new ways of play and understand like understood it more and more. And this was already after he was using it for like 2 months or something. Um, so yeah, like I think that the meta shifts that we were seeing, I think they were revolving a lot about the newest innovations in the like kind of big two teams that were innovating. I mean, I guess there was also like Lunala Miraidon as a big team, but that just wasn't really innovating. Like it was just like sticking to the same six Pokemon. But then Calyrex Ice, Miraidon, and also Calyrex Shadow and Zamazenta, I think both of those teams, they were like constantly trying to like kind of get an advantage over the other. But there weren't really any metagame adaptations that were brought in by any team outside of those three, I think. Like there wasn't really like, even if like I don't know, like there were some players, like for example Kian, who was really big on the Zacian Kyogre. Um, then there was, of course, also Joe, who did well with the Groudon Miraidon. Like there were a couple of like rogue teams out there who everyone knew could do well, but because there were only a handful of like really strong players using
Mhm.
them, it I think in a lot of players' minds, it didn't really make sense to adapt too heavily to those compositions, and instead like people just focus on like the big teams in the format. And yeah, Lunala Koraidon arguably wasn't a big team because yeah, even though it was considered to be like decent, I think like there just weren't that many strong players using it, and so it didn't really make sense to put in a lot of time to tech out for the matchup. Yeah, which is it's always fascinating, of course, because every VGC format, it's like always kind of unique, a unique balance. Like, do you want to like use the meta teams? Do you want to try and counter the meta teams, or do you want to like I don't know, do something like off meta? And I think in this format, it turned out that doing something that was like slightly off meta was probably the way to go for Worlds. As we're also seeing like Koraidon and Sash Calyrex in the finals, and then also Koraidon Calyrex Ice in the top four. So yeah, quite a few things that we weren't actually like expecting to be that commonly used.
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because like each format feels different. Like last year, everyone knew about Arubega Miraidon, and like that was like the number one team I had prepped against. Didn't matter. Still won the world
Yeah,
championships,
yeah,
right? Most of the years, it's like the biggest team going into worlds has a huge target on its back, or the biggest like Pokemon, whether it's like Kangaskhan in 2014, for example. I thought this year would be like the Fede Campo, like NAIC team, the Miraidon Lunala stuff, and
yep,
one of those still made it to the top eight, of course, featuring Life Orb instead, which I thought was a smart adaptation since, like, I can't express to the viewers and the listeners how different even changing one move is from how
yeah,
people like flow matchups, because it's like when you play against Miraidon, you're like, oh, well, it's never going to be able to protect. So I can always go like fake out into it or like X, Y, and Z. As soon as you change one move for protect, it like completely warps game plans. And like, I think that's part of what makes Pokemon so interesting, where it, like you said, you can like prep against 40 different teams and have all your matchups, but a single Pokemon or even a single move change, a single Terra type, a single item, that can be the difference between being like, oh, I know this matchup like the back of my hand versus, oh my God, like this, it is now completely different just because of this one thing. And now it's just a different game. And I think like, I don't know, it makes competitive Pokemon so interesting to me.
yep. Yeah, and also will probably mean that we will never like reach like a stage where like in chess where we have like analyzed all the different kind of situations and where we will be like, oh yeah, like we know exactly like this opening or whatever. Like no, like there could just be all of a sudden like one Pokemon maybe it's even has the same moves that you were preparing against, but it survives a hit that you weren't expecting to, and all of a sudden that like changes the dynamic of the matchup completely. Like for example, in the Japan national finals, Ursuluna taking body press and flame damage from Zine against Kinugawa, like that already like changed the matchup so much, and it's not something that like Kinugawa was expecting. Um, but yeah, and that on the team sheet, it looked like, oh yeah, like I know what to do against this, but then all of a sudden, as you see, oh wow, like this Ursaluna is actually like really like bulky in a different way from what I was expecting, and all of a sudden the matchup is completely different. So yeah, it's tough for us as the players, but also I think makes things very, very interesting, both as a competitor and a spectator, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And as we wrap up the Worlds discussion, I think, just being able to commentate it this year, I think Worlds is awesome because you just see such high level gameplay. And like the first set that Rose and I commentated, it was Eric Rios versus Paul Ruiz. And like I thought the matchup was awful for Paul. And like it was amazing. It was like beautiful Pokemon to watch where it's like this. I was saying it on commentary. It's like this is a set like you should show people if you want to see like how can you win in a bad matchup? Because I think when people think about Pokemon, they think, oh, if I have a bad matchup, well, I'm gonna lose most of the time anyway. But it's like your story of Worlds earlier as well, against Kieran, and then seeing like the Paul Eric game, I was like, this like high level Pokemon is just so awesome to watch, honestly. And it's Worlds, it's like where everyone has put in so much work. They have the game plans, and so they'll be able to like come up with more like crazy victories like that. But yeah, it was just amazing to be a part of. And I think thinking about how Worlds has grown so much, like now it's also just not about the tournament. Like there's a whole museum section. There was like a Hall of Fame that like showed like all the world champions and their winning teams and their decks. And there was like, creator meet and greets. And I don't know, it was just so much bigger than I'd ever seen before. And it's like, I don't know, this is what, like Worlds number 10, 11, 12 for us, like somewhere in the double digits at this point. And it's still just growing so much. And so, I mean, I know next year is going to be, I don't know. I can't think of like what much scale it will be relative to this year, but it's going to be even crazier for sure. And to me, I'm like, okay, next year is really going to set the bar. Like, because how can you get crazier than like Chase Center and like a whole experience in San Francisco? But I think, yeah, every year I like reflect on these, and I feel like when I was younger, it was like easier to take for granted, and now I'm like very appreciative just for the experience existing and also like the scale at which it exists these days.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I mean, Worlds was beautiful, but there is a new season ahead of us already. And we were hinting at it just a little bit. Yeah, we have split again between the official rule set and the in-game ladder, and especially for someone like you who is doing a lot of like in-game content. I don't know, that might not be the most optimal situation with Regulation J. And I had a look. Were they already playing this regulation on the ranked ladder?
It just started today.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
literally the day we're recording this.
I see. Because I was looking at like some teams, and I was like, well, there are no like mythicals like in some of the teams that I was seeing. But then, now you can actually go ahead and use them for the very first time, I guess, in like ranked. But yeah, tournaments will still be played with Regulation H. So we're going back again, I guess. We had this same situation already after Worlds last year, where we were going from a restricted format to Regulation H, and now we're doing kind of the same thing again. But yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm like too excited for it, but I would say Regulation H is one of the more exciting formats that we've seen in recent years. So like I'm all up for it. Like I'm down to see what people are coming up with. But I already know, with also the Pokemon Champions on the horizon, like I'm not gonna like go like all in Regulation H and like grind away like I did for Worlds. So I'll definitely like take things a lot slower for these upcoming tournaments now. How about yourself? What do you think about the split?
Yeah, it's mainly funny, like, because I'm like, yeah, we like do this format and then go back to this format and then do this other format and then the letters all blend in my head as well. I'm like HIJ, like,
Yeah.
like it's I think the pacing for Scarlet and Violet was probably a little bit off, where we like
Yeah.
moved through the earlier formats a little bit too much. Like I think Worlds 23, it being like a Pokemon home format, probably didn't need to be that,
Do you remember Regulation A?
It was back then, that's okay. The other thing that trips me up, Marcus, is that it used to be numbers. It was like Series 1, Series 2,
Oh, yeah.
and then Reg C, and then they
I
changed
got
the letters.
I got confused with the series. I like because I got completely lost in Sword and Shield at some point, like Series 6, whatever. Like there were a couple of series because they didn't have any official tournaments either.
That's right.
Like not even like Players Cup.
Yeah.
So I was like completely lost on those. But for this time, I tried. But then we had like Regulation A, which there was a total of 2 major tournaments in NA and EU, right? Like there was one each. There was Liverpool regionals, and then there was
like
the
San
one that
Diego regionals, I think.
San Diego. The one won by the Mimikyu Excalibur.
Yep, G-Sock Lee.
And exactly. And it's like, wow, yeah, like if we just played that for like a little bit longer, and then we played Regulation B for a little bit longer. But maybe they also had to like meet some like deadlines with the DLCs coming out, right? Like you want Ogre Pawn to be legal right away, and so on and so on. But yeah, like now, like I guess the first year of Scarlet Violet was like so exciting, like so many like different formats coming out, and now like yeah, we're like going back and forth between Regulation H, which is like okay, you have like no tools, and then it's like restricted format, like 1 or 2, and that's been like the last 2 years now at this point. But yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah, I think similar to you, I'm like, is H that exciting to me? Not really. I do think H still has so much like creative team building available. Like if you think about the teams that won in Reg H, like we had Wolves like Rain Perish one. No one else was using anything similar to that. We had Marco's like Charizard Sun win. That I feel like was like players just like sleeping on the team because it was known. It was like a Japanese composition. Like Marco himself was streaming with it. No one else really decided to like play it at a high level. And so I think like Marco really got to reap the benefits, which is also a mark of like, you know, part of the skill of VGC is like, can you identify things that you think are just so strong that you should bring it to a tournament, right? So Marco was ahead of the curve there. I think we saw like I think Nils Dunlop won a regionals with like Tyranitar Excadrill in DD like as well, right? And so all of these are like if you look at like all the teams from the tournament, it's like the only player running it is that player. And so I actually think like there's probably still a lot of creativity in H available, but right now as we've like just started getting back into the format, I think most people are just like digging back what was good previously. A lot of like kind of the standard like Dragonite, like Assault Vest Ursaluna, Golden Go, for example. And you know, I think Victory Road just organized the tournament, and Zine, like you said, actually won that, and he was using pretty standard stuff. I mean, it was Dragonite, Ursaluna, Golden Go, Rillaboom, Mouse Ape. And so like Mouse Ape, I feel like maybe making a slight comeback.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Mouse Ape is not like that standard, right? Like, from
Yeah.
where we left off for the format.
It's one of those weird ones where like I feel like it did. I mean, it won the first regionals, right? That the one that Nicholas Morales won against Paul Chua, that was Reg H, right? I think it was like the first Reg H major where it was like Pop Bomb, Mouse Hold, KO'd. I think that was H.
Did he have Annihilate?
Oh, maybe it was it
like
just
on the rain
Archaladon?
team, right?
Yeah. Either way, yeah, I think it seems like that's making a slight comeback. But I know it's so early on. I'm sure the first like couple of regionals will dictate the pace a little bit. Like, you know, where have we moved since like where have the standard teams gone since the last Reg Age? And then like, is anyone going to innovate the meta? I'm like at this point, like surely people will prepare for Charizard Sun a little bit more, right? But maybe not. Like maybe it just.
I mean, there are quite a few like really strong teams that you have to prepare for. So I wouldn't be surprised if we like saw some repeats as well, right?
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I think it'll be an interesting format. I'm not planning on spending a ton of time with it, but it's also like because it is like the tournament that people will play in tournaments in. And I was like, I want to cover the format, and I really wish we still had a ladder for it. Like it feels frustrating to like I wish we could just have 2 in-game ladders, you know. So I was like, man, like actually the day we're recording this, there's someone like posted on Twitter. They're like, hey, like I'm gonna hold this like online like 15 game, you know, like one of those best of 1 tournaments. And I was like, okay, that's great. That's how I'm gonna get some games in and film some content in this format. So it does make it a little bit more challenging. But I'm eager to see how it plays out. Like I've signed up for 1 tournament. It's the Monterey Regionals. Marcus, you and I have talked about it because I think you're playing in a regionals the same weekend. I'm still in the
2 weeks.
I like don't know if I will attend because I was looking at flights and I was like, the only flight that like actually gets me there is like Friday midday on a work day, and so I was like, I don't want to like take time off for it either. If it were like, oh, I can like leave after Friday night, you get there Friday night, Sunday, and then leave Sunday night. Like, yeah, my flights would be booked already.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that now that you are back from vacation, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, maybe you can, I don't know, take like half day off or whatever and make it work somehow. But yeah, like it's crazy that we're just talking about like getting home from Worlds, and then in like
2
just
weeks.
like 2 weeks. Yeah, there's like another tour, and I know like there's people like playing a lot of like limitless tournaments again, or like VR and whatnot, and I'm like, yeah, I want to play like some Cyberpunk or some Donkey Kong Bonanza, and just like not think about Pokemon for too much. But yeah, I'll be in Frankfurt, and like I'll try my best, of course. And I have found another new group of people to prep for this tournament, which I might reveal, or which might be revealed at a later point in time. But yeah, it's fun to like work together with like some people that you meet at Worlds, and then you get talking, and then you realize like, oh yeah, like you're both going to this tournament, so okay, like let's prep. And then yeah, it like sometimes it actually happens, sometimes it doesn't, because like the friends end up being busy and are not even sure if they're going to the tournament at all. But yeah, if you decide to go, like let me know, and I can maybe share some of what my group was working on, because I was actually not working a lot of it on it at all. But yeah, like it's I think like playing in tournaments or playing in regionals is like still a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
It's like the prep part that sometimes like it feels like a little bit too much for me right now, just after Worlds.
Totally. Yeah. I was like, I think it's interesting. I don't know if you're going to any other Reg H events, but for me, I'm like, I can't make any of the other
Yeah,
events like to compete in.
probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually a bummer because I was like, there's a regionals in Milwaukee, and like I can literally take a train to Milwaukee. It's like like I
Oh
think like an hour away max. But last year I had something like conflicted with it, and this year I'm also out of town
no.
for it. And I was like, how is it that like? And then when I was in California, there was a regionals in like Sacramento, and I literally lived in Northern California, so that was my
Yeah.
closest regionals, and I also like couldn't make that one, and I was like,
Wow. Yeah, you're dedicated to like other things. Like usually when like the first thing I do when the like season calendar comes out is just like I just like block all the weekends, and then like even if I'm not sure if I will go, but yeah, of course, like sometimes you have stuff that you can't move around. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
I guess it's
being like
interesting because it's like more like what prioritization is because
yeah.
Pittsburgh regionals is like, yeah, like third weekend of November or September, but then it's like my favorite music festival is in like San Francisco, and all my friends are going to
Yep.
that, and like it's like
Yeah.
I love it, and I'm like, yeah, like Pittsburgh regionals. I feel like unless I was like, oh my god, I have a team that's broken, and I think I
Yeah.
can win the tournament with it, it's just a lot harder to like pick and choose. But I also feel grateful to have the luxury of even being able to like pick events because honestly, like when I was younger and it was like parents driving me to events, like, didn't have money to fly around. It's like, okay, I have to make these three work. Otherwise, like, I don't get to play Pokemon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
feel lucky to be able to pick and choose. But, on the Reg H discussion, I'm like not planning on going to anything basically. Monterey, maybe if I, decide I can make it work. But
Yeah.
it'll be fun to, I think, watch and follow. I think, yeah, I'm like, it's amazing that the attendance numbers are still so high. It's like registration still filling up. I think Pittsburgh has like 700 plus people. It makes me think about back in the day when it was like Sun and Moon, like end of Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Regionals has like
Yeah.
50 people. It was literally like I was thinking about that this year where like Worlds Day 2 was like larger than some of the
More
regionals we
people.
had.
That's true. That's
I think
true.
it was specifically like the 2019 like Ultra Sun, Ultra
Yeah.
Moon, like end of that era where things
No
it was
one
the
wanted to
lull was
play that.
just so
Yeah.
bad. But I'm like, yeah, we're in a completely different time of competitive Pokemon now. But I think
Yeah. This was also when the Switch had already come out though, right? I think. And
maybe,
like
yeah.
like Sword and Shield was like on the horizon, and
Yep.
the
Yeah.
Switch was
Yeah. Yeah.
already out, but we were like still playing on like the 3DS, and
3DS. Yeah.
yeah.
It's just funny
And
to
then
reflect
one of the
on.
yeah, like some of the like most favorite format of a lot of us. But yeah, so like I also won't play much of Regulation H, maybe like some locals probably, and then I hope that I will be able to commentate some events though. So let's see how that will go. But then of course on the horizon, we have Pokemon Champions. And I think we spent a little bit of time speculating already in last episode about what that could mean for the competitive scene. And I have prepared a little bit
Ooh.
of what might be a little bit of a, I don't know, like controversial take. I
Ooh.
until like 1 or 2 weeks ago, I hadn't seen like anyone say that thing, but then now I saw one person say the same thing. Shoutouts to Grant Weldon, Velocity, because he was arguing in like a similar direction. And I'm not like 100% sure if that is exactly like how I see it, but hear me out,
I'm
okay?
listening.
Pokemon Champions could be a little bit of a risk for the competitive scene
Okay.
because we are separating from the mainline games, right? Like that's what kind of got like confirmed with the announcement at Worlds. Worlds next year will be on Champions, like we were hoping and like we were thinking. But that means that with like separating from the main games, I think there was never ever a chance where like the main line games for Pokemon like would be like a flop, right? Like they're selling like 20 million copies for these games, right? And like we already know that the competitive scene is only a fraction of that, but I mean, if someone like internally, if they were like looking at the numbers and they were like, oh, like is there, I don't know, like how much is like the Pokemon tournaments, how much are they contributing to like our success or whatever as like the Pokemon company, someone could always pull up the numbers and be like, hey, like we sold 20 million copies of Scarlet and Violet. And then people would be like, okay, great. Like keep doing what you're doing. Right. But now that we're separating, like we don't know how many people will download the game. We don't know how many people will play the game because in order to enjoy Scarlet and Violet, I don't think you need to enjoy battling. Like if you're a Pokemon fan, if you're like somewhat casual, um, and you just want to like play for the story, or maybe you just want to like hunt for shinies, or you just want to like experience the new region or whatever, right? With champions, like it's very clear, like this is going to be about battling, and if you don't enjoy like actually battling, like there might be people who like watching battles, but who maybe are not playing themselves, and they probably were still enjoying Scarlet and Violet, but we don't know like if they will enjoy champions, and then there might be a point where it's like, oh, like this game actually isn't that successful, like it will never reach the numbers of Scarlet and Violet on console. But yeah, but I mean that's like a little bit of kind of like my like thought that I would like wanted to discuss with you how you see it. I know you're also like a smart business person. um, and of course, there are also some arguments that one could make kind of against that narrative that I just presented. But yeah, I would be curious, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I think it is like when I hear you describe it, I'm like, well, that's scary to think about, right? Like, I'm not sure how this fits into like Pokemon's overall strategy and portfolio. Like, I think naturally businesses are inclined to like want to, figure out ways to make money. And so if hearing like what you describe, I was like, okay, if Champions comes out and they like don't monetize well and it's not making any money, then
Yep.
is it something that they're like, hey, like we're gonna phase it out at some point? So that
Because just one more comment, because I think it's important to understand, like, because like I'm expecting that the new mainline games for Pokemon, they will not feature the same battle mechanics anymore.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
think what they will do is like more of Legends Arceus, more of Legends CA, like action based kind of combat, like new things like the agile style, like Legends Arceus, I didn't play the game, but it was still like round based, right? But it had like certain like extra mechanics, I think, that like went beyond like the regular turn by turn that we know and love. And then Legends CA is like completely different. Once again, it's action based, right? And I think they will like try out different things just to like have different ways to engage with the franchise. But the turn based battles, I think it's gone, and it will not be in whatever like generation 10 like the next game will be. Like I don't think we will see the same kind of turn based, and I think this will be only on champions going forward.
Yeah, yeah.
So, sorry
No,
to
I
interrupt.
agree with that take. I think it's like a little bit scary. I think the counter argument is it's like if you think about the number of people that probably would be interested in playing competitive Pokemon but have never bothered to because like they either don't have a Switch or they don't own Scarlet and Violet, or they don't know that like in order to play competitive you like go into Scarlet and Violet and then you like go into Battle Stadium and then you get a rental code. Whereas now I like think about like the decrease of barrier to entry, where like I could see a lot of my friends who just like competitive games, like they play League of Legends, they play Teamfight Tactics, and Dota and Counter Strike or whatever, or Valorant. Like I could see them being like, oh my gosh, you're telling me now I just download an app and I can play? Like, and so I like the main question to me is like, can you sustain the player base? Because I think when the game comes out, you'll have a ton of people download
Yeah.
it, and like in mobile games, it's like you look at retention rate, and so it's like day 1 retention, day 7 retention, like day 30 retention. So it's like what's the number of percentage of people that play after like that period. So I think Pokemon, I'm hoping will do a good job in like figuring out ways to like incentivize people to continue to want to play. And we don't know much about like the competitive aspect, like acquiring the Pokemon, other than like what we've seen in the trailer so far. So I don't know what it will be like, whether it's like will rental teams still exist as a concept, right? And even if the barrier to entry is still really low, like how much time will I individually have to spend to like get a team together? And what if I've like team built in theory to team and like putting it together? Like how long does that take, for example? So I'm personally optimistic on the number of people that will download and try the game.
Yep.
I'm hoping what will be important is sustaining that and getting people to come back and continue to play. But yeah, it's an inherent risk. I think to your point, it's not just all like, oh, this is great and like there's no problem with it. Like, and I don't, once again, it's like I don't know how much it fits into like the business portfolio of things, right? But it's like if you are spending a ton on game dev and live ops and the game is making absolutely no money, that does sound a little bit scary to me. However, I do think it's like we're combining both the Switch player base as well as like a mobile player base that previously has not existed, and I think that's like a huge unlock, personally. So yeah, I think the points you brought up are fair. I'm optimistic Pokemon is going to get it right. They're going to nail it. We're going to have 10x the number of people watching and playing VGC, hopefully. But we'll see. It's like at the end of the day, we are like restricted to whatever game comes out, right? And however it's released and what the cycle looks like. And we don't know much more about it. But I have reason to believe in, reason to be optimistic more than not right now. Like so far, I would say from everything I've seen, I'm more optimistic than not.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not saying that I absolutely think that this scenario, like they're splitting out battling, like this would be the worst case, right? Like they're splitting battling into champions. The main games continue with like different styles of battles. They continue to be like very, very successful. It turns out like the large player base doesn't actually care so much about like battling themselves. Like they might enjoy watching battles and they might enjoy like playing through the games, but they don't actually, maybe they don't actually care that much about like having the same turn-based battles. And then if champions like doesn't do well, then and it like fades out. Like what next? What now? Now we don't have a way to play the game. So that would be the worst case scenario. But I'm also very optimistic and confident that the launch and everything will go well. If anything, I'm actually happy that Champions did not come out right away afterwards, because I think to me Champions is a game that will have to have two like kind of game modes. Like one, and this is like 100% of the features that we've seen so far are about competitive battling and about like player versus player kind of games. But I think it also has to have some sort of like reoccurring like game mechanic that makes you want to like log in every day, and that makes you want to like do something in the game every day that is maybe not like player versus player battles, but maybe like maybe there are some sort of like missions where, I don't know, you need to like imagine they had like puzzles where you need to identify like the perfect play or like how to guarantee a win. Like I would be like, that would be super super cool. And like I don't want to like put my hopes too high, because it's very difficult to craft these type of puzzles to be challenging. But like something like that is something that I would want to see in the game, where it's like, oh, you actually have to like think about how to convert like an end game in a guaranteed victory, and then it's actually something that you can like go back like jump between the turns, and it's like playing against like an AI and not against like a real person, so you might feel like more safe to try something out. Because it can be hard to like, if the only mode was to play against other people, like that can be hard, because you might lose, like the other players might just be very strong. And I know that, like, for example, and I know a lot of players or a lot of people compared it to Pocket, the app for the TCG, which grew the player base for the trading card game. Presumably, it's hard, of course, to kind of like find the causation versus correlation, but in that game, you have like a whole like aspect of the game which is collecting the cards that has nothing to do with playing. And I don't know if like collecting will be an aspect that they will have in Champions, but there, in my opinion, there needs to be this like second kind of game mode besides like purely battling. Like just having like a simulator or just having like a battle simulator, like that does not already like make a great game. Like even if you, for example, if you think about Pokemon Showdown, and if you look at the numbers that or like the number of players on Pokemon Showdown, like I don't know exactly from the top of my head, but a huge part of that is actually people just playing like random battle formats where you don't have to build a team. So I don't know, maybe even just something like that, like just something that makes it like even easier to just like get a game going, right? Because if you had to like, I don't know, like play to get resources to improve your team, like I think that is interesting for like competitive players like ourselves. But I have my doubts that this is the way that a lot of like more casual players will want to play the game. And that's like with any news that will come out about Champions, like I will actually like look at that. Like I don't like I have made up my mind, like it's going to be great for competitive, like I have no doubt about that. But I want to understand like how will like more casual players get to enjoy the game. So yeah, that's what I'll be looking out for, and that's why I'm happy that even though like the game development seems to be like kind of done, like there were some like screenshots flying around about like some of the developers already moving on to like other projects. Like I think the game is probably, maybe you can like play it already, but I wonder like what kind of content do they have to, yeah, as you were talking about, like I want to know about the like 30-day retention rate. Like how can people who have never been to like a VGC tournament still enjoy the game even after like a couple of months? Probably, yeah.
I was like, they should hire you, Markus. Like you're coming up with ideas. I mean, I think it's all really, really good points. Yeah. And I don't know what they'll do. I think to me, it's like naturally collecting is what Pokemon is about. And so it's like, if you can turn this into a pseudo collecting, like that's why Pocket does well, right? Or part of the reason why Pocket does well. Like I have friends who just love opening the packs and like getting the digital dopamine from,
Yes,
being like,
yes.
oh, am I going to get
Yeah,
something
like
rare?
that's great. Yeah.
Exactly. And so to your point, I don't know what it will look like for Champions. Like I would naturally would think that something around that, whether it be like you can get a rare Pokemon every day, maybe it's shiny or maybe it's X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Where like there probably does need to be another element in order to like actually get people excited and have people like open the app. And not necessarily be like, okay, I'm like queuing up for a competitive battle right now. But yeah, I mean eager to just see more. I think it's also, was it at Worlds where they were like, oh, the first format is going to be like megas,
About megas? Yeah, I don't think they said it at Worlds. I think it was
maybe in
like
like one of the,
hinted at in like some
yeah,
of the
press release or
documentation.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I mean that to me is also just crazy. I'm like, we're gonna
Yeah.
go back to like old mechanics in VGC. Like
Yes.
I'm like, I haven't used the like mega part of my brain or like the Z move part of my brain or the gems part of my brain. Like I saw a paste
The
for a 20.
Dynamax.
Yeah. Well, that one at least I'm like, okay, press button, boom,
Yeah.
weakness fall, side weakness falls. But I saw like a 2013 paste the other day, and I was like, this looks so foreign to me. Like it's just
Mm.
nuts. But I'm excited to see because they imagine at some point like they combine some of it, right? Like what does it look like
Yeah.
if you can
Yeah.
Dynamax and Mega and I don't know, but and it also makes me wonder: will Champions introduce a brand new mechanic as well, or are we just sticking with like, okay, the last mechanic we have is Terra, and so it's like each chapter of Champions is like one of the past mechanics, and at some point like
Yep.
pick and choose between. I'm not sure. Also, we're gonna have obviously a lot of new Mega evolutions, so that's gonna be cool as well.
Yeah, I have some more thoughts, by the way. Yeah, we should talk more often. I was just thinking about this. Like, I also think there is a chance that maybe for the like upcoming and new Pokemon games, they will not have as many new Pokemon like
Mm-hmm.
we're like used to from new generations. Because like at some point, I feel like more might not be like better. Like yes, having new Pokemon, and we're seeing this right now with the new mega evolutions that are being revealed. Like that gets people to talk, right? Like that gets like screenshots sent around, like, oh wow, like did you see like Victory Bell like now all of a sudden has a mega and whatever, and even like casual fans like they remember Victory Bell, right? But I think at some point you also want to think about like, oh, like what are some things that the core fandom like will want to see? Because there's already like so many Pokemon. I don't know, like I feel like anyone can find like their favorite. And there are some Pokemon that already kind of are like kind of forgotten because they didn't appear in a couple of games. Maybe they aren't as like popular. But I don't know if they need to like introduce, I don't know, like 70, 80 new Pokemon with every generation, or
Mm-hmm.
if maybe they're just like focusing on like a couple of new Pokemon, but then more like forms to already existing Pokemon. So that's something that I could see. And then maybe, yeah, you also don't need any more new mechanics. Like maybe it's already enough to like mix and match what we already have. So that's like something that I'm thinking about, that maybe that could be a direction for them. And then just very quickly, I wanted to like tell one more story to kind of stress my point from before. Like I wonder what the like kind of like the player journey will be from a casual player into competitive, because right now it's pretty clear, like they have like the casual player, they already own it in Nintendo Switch, they already own Scarlet and Violet because they like to play Pokemon, right? And that's the like main Pokemon game, so they will probably have it. And a friend of mine, she's hosting an annual like Pokemon fandom event in here locally in Nuremberg in Germany. And every year like there's a like it's like kind of like a cosplay live action role play kind of part where like people like dress up as some of the characters, and then there's like kids coming in and like battling these like trainers for badges, and it's all like really really cute and like very very like nicely set up. Like they're we have like a huge building to our own where yeah all of that can go on. And then at the end of the day, there's like a competitive tournament, and like the adults who manage to like get all the badges, they will play like a VGC style tournament that I'm hosting. And then the kids are like playing against like the Elite Four, and it's like some like players who are like cosplaying and like who make sure that the kids are having fun. And so they were asking like, oh yeah, so like how's it gonna work like with the next event like next year, like or can we still play on Scarlet and Violet? And I was like, huh, like yeah, like I guess you could, but we might not want to. Like, oh, the game is going to be on like champions, like that's just where the battles will be. So for the tournament, we might need to use champions, right? But then like I don't know, will the kids in a year like will they have champions? Is that the game that they will be playing, or will they play Legends CA? And that's the game where
Mm.
they're like, oh yeah, like that's the most recent Pokemon game, like I'm playing that game, right? So yeah, like just how will like all sorts of different players who like to play Pokemon video games, how will they find their way into competitive? I think that is kind of like my question.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm like piggybacking off that. I'm thinking it's like, how do you on ramp them? Like, if I download
Yeah.
champions and I know nothing about competitive, like,
Yep.
most games obviously walk you through a tutorial stage, and so I'm
But
I'm thinking,
it's got to be like really really good and like really like touch
exactly.
upon complex strategy and so on for you to really understand what the game is about, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think as I think about like moving on to champions and like content that I make right now, I'm like, oh, I just like make battling content. I feel very honored when people are like, oh, you should go like watch Aaron to like learn about the game. But
Yeah.
then I also realize how daunting it can be to like for someone to give you an hour and a half long video and you're like, I don't know what any of these words mean. Like
Yeah.
what is like it like obviously assumes a lot of base knowledge. And so if like you already like know VGC and are like understand the basics, then great. But I'm like, there's a big gap between like on ramping someone who might know competitive games and have played, I don't know, poker or chess or teamfight tactics or any other competitive game, but then don't know anything about VGC. Because I was talking to a creator recently, and they like are very good at other games, and they're like, yeah, I don't know if like it's helpful to just do battles right now because like I don't understand what's going on. Like I understand that I'm
Yeah.
losing, but like why am I losing, right? And I think like but to me, like Pokemon is so complex because it's like the team in itself is already a big element. Like if you don't have a structurally sound team, you're going to lose so much more. And which is why it's like, I recommend people when they're starting out to like take a good team rather than like try to build something on your own by scratch. But then at the same time, I was realizing, like, I always say that, but I don't want to give people this false, like, because team building is an awesome part of Pokemon. Like, it's not like you shouldn't do that. It's just so hard when you ramp it up, or when you're just starting out. All of that is to say, it's like, I think like going from like zero, beginner to even like getting to like 20% of the way there. I think that like gap can be really tricky. And I assume a lot of people probably just like drop off along because they're like, this is too complicated. Like, there's a billion Pokemon to memorize, a billion strategies, right? And so, I assume champions will do something in order to like get people on board. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if there will be like 3 or 4 like downloadable rental teams that are like recommended, and they tell you like, here's how you should use it, and here are like the core strategies. This is like, I think about like Unite, where it shows you like the difficulty of a Pokemon, right? This is easier to use, like this hard trick room, you always do X, Y, and Z, versus like using this niche Pokemon, like great if it managed to make it work, but you have to set up like 2 or 3 turns to position it, right? Anyway, I was thinking about all of this in the context of like the content that I want to make. And like, I think like I haven't fully like thought it through yet, but I was like going to do like this master document of like, here's what my plan is. And I think part of it is, I think on ramping onto the game right now is still actually very difficult. Like, you can point to like content, you can point to stuff out there, but like, I was like, how do I get someone that knows nothing about VGC playing and like getting them to a decent level within like, say, a month, right? A month's worth of videos or content. And so that's like the problem, at least I'm trying to solve for right now. So hopefully champions will also help with it, but I'm thinking about like what I can do as a creator personally to like get more people into it as well. And I think it'll be a fun problem to solve.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I think, we will have a lot of like players who are coming back, who maybe like, now that the barrier of entry will be so low, hopefully with champions, you can just like download it on your phone. That we will have like a lot of new players who will try to get it in the game. I think with a lot of these things, of course, we don't know everything about champions. We already know about the fact that EV training will be so much easier. IVs might be gone. So like, there's a lot of things that also just like will improve quality of life quite significantly over like the tedious process of like acquiring Pokemon currently in game, like raising them, teaching them the moves, and so on and so on. But yeah, I'm very curious also what our listeners have to say. So if you made it that far, definitely let us know in the comments. I assume everyone is excited for champions, but now that I think we also managed to have like a little bit more of a like nuanced kind of conversation about some of the implications that the game might have that might not be obvious at first glance. I'm definitely interested in what people are thinking about in the comments.
The optimist in me, Marcus, like I think next year will be life changing for all of us. And like I'm like, as a creator, it's like almost a little bit scary to think about, because it's like the options feel like limitless, but we also still don't even know enough about the game. But in my head, I'm like, I think I might have told you at Worlds, but like I'm planning on taking, a couple months off work to just do it full time, mainly because I actually really enjoy working. So it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, like I need to get out of this corporate rat race. But it's more like I want to go all in on it, because I don't want to waste any hour that I'm like awake when Champions is first out, and like want to capitalize off of it. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm like really eager about it.
Now you get me thinking, because I definitely also want to go, like that's kind of my plan as well, like take Reg H off, like do some other stuff, but then when champions comes out, like I definitely want to also like do more stuff content wise. But like just taking time off, like man, like that sounds awesome, right? Like, because that's gonna be a game that I will be like super excited for, right? Like I don't know, like there was a couple of games in my life where I was thinking about, oh, I should like take time off so I can really like play it at launch, right? And then I kind of had this phase for Unite, but then like I'm not having it for like any of the Regulation D, right? Like I'm not gonna take like time off work to like dive into Regulation D. You know what I mean? But I think for champions it's gonna be like so like changing, as you're saying. That maybe I'll think about that as well.
I'm also eager. I feel like we're getting to this wave where like, VGC is like really breaking outside of just like the VGC bubble. And, Wolf has obviously been a huge primary driver of that. But yeah, I think there was this like Nuzlocke VGC event that took place. I don't know if you saw, but it
Yeah,
like featured,
I saw. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I had like no idea of it. And then
Yep.
I was talking to someone and they were like, "Oh, I didn't realize that the tournament was actually like a VGC style tournament after the Nuzlocke." I think it was, like the VGC. It was like pseudo VGC in the sense that it was doubles, but it were
Yeah,
all
yeah,
like
yeah.
move sets that
Yeah.
you would have came from the Nuzlocke instead of like standard VGC sets. But I was like, this is crazy. I'm like watching the biggest creators on gaming creators of the internet like play something that's basically VGC. And so I'm thinking like when Champions comes out, I assume like it'll be really good in like ramping like I'm just hoping like the first couple of months I think are going to be so important. Like launch needs to be nailed
Yep.
correctly, but I'm thinking it's like the number I'm yeah, like my brain just goes to like all these creators who like know a little bit about VGC. Now like Champions is the time for them to dive into it. And then how many like people does that expose competitive Pokemon in
Yeah.
VGC to?
Like the chess boom kind of, but for
Mhm.
Pokemon in a way.
Yeah, which is crazy because it feels like we've already had a boom and another boom. Like Sword and
Yeah,
Shield
yeah,
was a
yeah.
boom and Scarlet and Violet was a boom, but it's like I don't know,
We're
like
talking about like big boom.
yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I mean, like we are not that far away from it, man. Which is what's also crazy. It still feels far away in my head because I'm like, oh, we don't
Yeah.
know enough about it, but it is gonna creep up, I think, quicker than we expect. But I think one thing that I think is cool, Marcus, is that like you and I we've played this game for so long and like it's just been a part of our lives. But I'm like, wow, let's like this game is gonna introduce like literally
Yeah.
millions of people to something that we've spent like so much of our lives, doing.
Yeah.
And that to me is cool because I'm like it'll be cool to just like be able to speak to things like I can imagine like our friends maybe are like curious about the game and then like you could suddenly nerd out about like the most complex strategy possible and they're like what like how do you even know this or I think about
Yep.
like chess players who like to me I think it's still so cool when like chess players can like close their eyes and like not look at the board and like play an entire game in their head but then I was like, wait, we can do that for
We can do
VGC.
that.
That
Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
So all of that is to say, I like it's cool that we've been doing this for so long. I've like built up so much knowledge and expertise, and I'm eager to see how that will translate to champions when like the audience and the player base like increases even substantially more. And so I don't know. I just like get pumped talking about this with all of you, but at the same time,
I was just gonna say, like, oh, I'm getting excited as well. Yeah.
like and I don't know what our futures will hold. I think obviously we've been playing for a long time. I think we still have like desire to compete and play at a high level, but then we also like commentate a lot and I think we both like doing it a lot and I think can speak to the game at a high level. I don't know if you'll like make your foray back into content outside of the podcast, but I know Marcus was it on top, that was the name of the series
Yep.
back in the day.
Markus
Like
on top. Yep.
yep, might see a revival there. But it's just cool to think that like there are a lot of different avenues and routes that we can go down in. And I don't know, what route we'll end up taking, but I know we'll take some route and it'll be awesome doing it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the last like part, like I think is also something that I want to highlight, like about worlds again, like the part about like doing it together. Like I think once more also like just hanging out with you and like our other friends at the event, like that's like the beautiful part about it. And when you're talking about like more people will get exposed to Pokemon as a game, like they will also be exposed to the community and they will make maybe like similar lifelong friendships that we were able to form. And yeah, like that's very like wholesome and something that I hope a lot of people will be able to enjoy, like the combination of the strategic game, but then also the community and the amazing people around it.
Yeah, it's like it's so easy to I don't know, like I'm like I never want to take it for granted. Especially I think as I get older in life, like you realize that like it's hard to just like make friends and meet people in general,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I think about like the number of like people that I would like invite to my wedding, right?
Oh yeah. I was
And
just thinking about that as well.
and like how many of them would come from like people that I met from Pokemon? I'm like, it's a lot. It's like a lot of people that were either mentors to me when I was younger or just friends and people that have changed my lives. And I think it's like the people I've met in VGC have like molded and shaped me so much. And I was thinking about this with like the modern generation of VGC. Like I was, thinking about like the Hom brothers and seeing their like amazing run in masters and now seniors and like yeah, the friends that they've made and how much of an impact they've had on the community, right, within like their local friend circles. And I was like, it's just so cool that like, I mean, here we are like 10, 15 years later from when we first started, but like people are still having the same experience. And I hope that everyone can look back down one day and be like, I'm very grateful to have done this, not only for like the competitive experience and everything I got from it, but like the people. Because I truly think it's like, yeah, like some of the best people I've met in life. And it's not that easy, you know. I feel like, especially, I talk to a lot of my adult friends now who are like, oh, I'm like kind of settled in, I'm in the city, but like it's really hard to make new friends, and like my friends are
Yeah.
getting busier, people are getting married, people are having kids, and I'm like, wow, it's amazing that I have these like chats with my VGC friends that I can talk to every day. And even though like you and I see each other maybe only 2 or 3 times a year max, it's like I feel a lot more connected because we have these like chats with our friends that are like very active, and that is something that I don't like take for granted either. So yeah, hopefully with Champions, like it just allows a lot more people to have that experience as well, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Exciting times up ahead. I might just like start some Reg H after hearing this kind of pep talk of yours. But yeah, I think there's Frankfurt coming up in 2 weeks. So yeah, maybe like a week from whenever this will go up. But definitely, if you are around there and you see me and you want to say hi, then please do so. And yeah, good luck and have fun, everyone who's trying to qualify for Worlds. We didn't really talk about it, but we also got a global challenge coming up. So yeah, the season is just kicking in full gears right away. And yeah, we know that with Champions coming out next year and being played at Worlds, like it's gonna be an incredible season that will end in the Chase Center. Hopefully, I don't mean we never know, but like maybe the two of us manage to be there in some way or another again. That would be great. But yeah, other than that, we'll I think both of us will take a little bit of a more like chill Reg H time until the end of the year. But then yeah, with more news about Champions, yeah, I think it could be really big, and it could change the competitive Pokemon landscape forever, basically.
Yep. And we, of course, will be here to cover it for all of you. So I think next time we do one of these, we'll probably actually talk a little bit more about the meta and tournaments and what's been happening. This is more just of a recap of Worlds and, of course, Reg I and Reg J. Reg J, by the way, we didn't touch on very much. I think it'll be fun. I'm excited to try out. I think Arceus actually is like one of the most interesting Pokemon ever in VGC because you can have every type and every Terra type. And so it's like the number.
Oh wow, true. I didn't think of that.
It's
Yeah.
actually crazy because I just started playing some games and I was like, I see an
Yeah.
Arceus. First of all, in team preview, I'm like, I don't even like it does show you the type, but I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what color that
You
is. I'm like,
need like some like AI. I'm sure someone's gonna build that, right? But like image kind of yeah, conversion into, oh, like this is blue, but this is the ice blue.
exactly, because I see purple and I'm like, it could be psychic, it could be fairy, it could be ghost. Like I don't know any of
It's
what any of
poison.
those. Yeah, exactly. It's so um I'm excited from a content perspective. I think it's like
Mm.
Arceus Magearna clearly seem to be like a step above. And then like, yeah, I've seen some people post like Darkrai teams and some of the other ones, but it'll be fun. I think I appreciative that they're doing a for fun format. I mainly wish we had like an in-game ladder still for H, but it'll be cool to like just see how some of these Pokemon play out. But yeah, next time we'll be back. We'll do some, more meta analysis as some of the Reg H tournaments actually start to happen. And like Markus said, if you're attending any of the Reg H tournaments, best of luck. For those that are, just getting in back into things, like remember to take care of yourself, take some time off, especially if you were playing in the World's Grind or the World's Chase last season. That's intense. And yeah, we appreciate everyone for tuning into these. I think Markus and I have both been able to meet a couple of you all in person who have come up and expressed their gratitude for the, pod. And I think we would like to definitely do it at a more frequent basis. Our schedules are just so chaotic, but I don't, take it for granted either that we get to do this. And for me, it's been really fun. I think, Markus and I have known each other for a really long time, but I feel like we've gotten a lot closer in the more recent years than when we first kind of knew each other as more like friends through friends. But now we kind of have this like larger friend group. And for that, I feel much gratitude too as well. But it's a exciting time here in competitive VGC. So appreciate everyone for listening to another episode of this. And we will be back soon, hopefully sooner than later.
Thanks so much for listening, and hear you next time.